Hello students, I'm Yinka Thomas, a public health nutritionist, and every year Barnet Public Health asked me to speak in secondary schools about sugar and trans fats. Now, under normal circumstances, I would be in your school speaking to you directly. However, these films are the next best thing. First, I want to tell you why adolescence is a very important time in your lives. As a nutritionist, I call it a window, a growth window. This is a time when rapid growth occurs. You grow taller, broader, bodies and faces change, and your body needs nutrients for you to grow optimally. This is important. Growth will happen anyway because of the growth hormone that your bodies are producing. But you also need nutrients, good nutrients, for you to reach your full growth potential. Because once that window closes, it closes for good. So it's important that you have the knowledge you need to make better choices. But my approach today is not to preach to you about why you should be eating broccoli, which you should be anyway, by the way. Rather, I'm going to speak to you about the 2 worst foods in the human diet and how you can avoid them. So there are numerous foods in the diet that have a detrimental effect on health and development. Too much salt is an example. However, in my opinion, formed from 20 years as a nutritionist, the 2 worst foods in the human diet, bar none, are trans fats and too much sugar. Sugar you know about. Trans fats you may not have heard of. However, if you eat any of these foods, you've probably consumed them. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I'm going to present to you 4 pieces of evidence for each of these foods to illustrate just how bad they are for our health. And then, after hearing the evidence, I want you to decide what you consider to be the worst food and why. So first, let's start with sugar. The first piece of evidence against sugar is that it contributes to the development of all of these diseases and conditions. Have a look at all of these diseases and think about what, with one exception, they all have in common. Have you got it? The answer is that with the exception of tooth decay and gum disease, all of these diseases will shorten lifespan, and obesity, or carrying excess fat, will increase the chances of developing all of the other diseases. The diseases that kill us are not infectious diseases that we can catch from each other, like COVID-19, although sugar does suppress the immune system, so that we may find out one day that it does increase the risk of catching coronavirus. Medical advances such as antibiotics and vaccines and improved sanitation have largely eliminated infectious diseases that claimed our lives in the past, such as typhoid, cholera, TB and influenza or flu. No, the diseases that shorten lifespan are the diseases that we developed, mostly from poor lifestyle choices such as poor diet and lack of physical activity. These are known as non-communicable diseases. We don't catch them, we develop them. And consuming too much sugar from food and drink directly increases risk of suffering from these diseases. The second piece of evidence against sugar is that consuming too much of it causes a deficiency of B vitamins and can cause inflammation and disease. Now there are 8 B vitamins: B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9 or folate and B12, and all of them are important. For most of them, their most important functions are to help us to turn our food into energy and to maintain our nervous system and mental health. When we eat, we want that food to provide us with energy, but that doesn't just happen automatically. For food to be turned into energy, there are mechanisms that have to take place, and B vitamins are vital for those mechanisms to happen. B vitamins also play a role in producing brain chemicals that affect mood and other brain functions. Low levels of B12 and other vitamins such as B6 and folate, B9, may be linked to depression. Now, if we had a store of B vitamins in our bodies, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. But B vitamins, like vitamin C, are water-soluble vitamins. That means that we cannot store them in our fat tissue, like all of the other vitamins. When we get more B vitamins than we need, we excrete them in our urine or pee them out. So because we don't have a store, the body can easily become deficient in B vitamins as it uses up all that we have in trying to turn sugary foods that have no nutrients into energy. See if you notice a decline in your mood after having a lot of sugar from food or drinks. So how does too much sugar cause inflammation and disease? Well, an illustration is if I spill this sugary drink and instead of washing down the surface, I just get this kitchen towel and just wipe it up like that. What's going to happen to that surface after a while? That's right, it's going to get sticky. Sugar is sticky, and when we get a lot of sugar in our bloodstream, it causes the blood and the constituents of the blood, such as the platelets, to become sticky. This causes inflammation. Now, inflammation is a good thing when we're injured. If I cut myself, the wound becomes inflamed, which causes the healing process to begin, and that wound will eventually heal. However, inflammation is harmful when there is no injury. And as I mentioned earlier, sugar suppresses the immune system. Around 80% of bacteria and viruses seek out the sugars on the surfaces of our cells to replicate. So sugar can make a bacterial or viral infection worse. The third piece of evidence against sugar is that it promotes fat gain. The body gains weight most readily when we consume sugar and refined flour products such as biscuits, cakes and confectionery, as well as sugary drinks like fizzy drinks, Ribena, Lucozade and milkshakes, and even energy drinks and fruit juices. In fact, the body is more readily able to convert sugar from our diet into body fat than it is able to convert fat from our diet into body fat. This is how it works. The lines on this diagram represent our blood glucose or blood sugar levels. The red line is what happens after eating a sugary meal such as Cocoa Pops or Crunchy Nut cornflakes. After digestion of something sugary, it is absorbed into the bloodstream via the small intestine. And because of the high amount of sugar, blood glucose spikes. Now, high blood sugar is dangerous and the body has a mechanism to lower it, a hormone called insulin. Insulin is released from the pancreas and blood sugar drops. However, insulin doesn't just take out a little glucose, it removes so much that blood sugar drops, leaving you feeling fatigued, tired, grumpy, and very hungry. So you reach for a pick-me-up snack like a biscuit and blood sugar rises again. Insulin is released again and blood sugar drops again. And on the cycle goes, which can eventually result in the cells no longer responding to insulin so that blood sugar remains dangerously high. And this can lead to a disease called type 2 diabetes. So where does the glucose go when it is removed from the bloodstream? Well, if you're going to use up that glucose or energy, where do you need it? That's right, in the muscles. We also store glucose in the liver for endurance activity. But when those stores are full, insulin signals that the glucose is converted into fat and stored in the fat cells. If the red line represents a high sugary food or drink, what food could be represented by the green line? Perhaps porridge oats for breakfast or a chicken salad sandwich for lunch? You won't get the sugar spikes that cause you to store glucose as fat and the dips that cause you to reach for a sugary snack. Here's a film that sums up what I've just explained.
Ever reached for a sweet pick-me-up and found yourself feeling even more tired and hungry than before? Here's how a sugar binge can cause an energy slump. When you eat processed sugary food, your digestive system breaks it down and absorbs the sugar, which is mostly glucose. As a result, your blood glucose levels increase. The pancreas reacts to glucose levels rising by releasing insulin, a hormone which takes glucose out of the blood and into the body's cells where it's used as fuel or stored for later. While insulin plays a few roles, its main job here is to quickly bring blood glucose levels back to normal. If you eat a lot of sugar at once, your pancreas can overreact and send out a surge of insulin, which can sometimes be a bit too efficient at removing glucose from the blood. The result? Low blood glucose levels, leaving you feeling tired and sluggish. As your body notices your blood glucose levels are dropping below normal, it signals to the brain, "Hold on, we're running low on energy," urging you to refuel, or in other words, find sugar to eat, fast. While we all enjoy snacking on a few sweet treats here and there, munching on too many can set you up to yo-yo from sugar high to sugar low very quickly, making you hungrier and lower in energy than before you ate. Besides possibly feeling grumpy and tired, research is increasingly linking excess sugar intake to obesity, diabetes, insulin, and leptin resistance. So next time a sugary craving hits, reach for fruit instead. It satisfies you in a natural way with the added bonus of healthy nutrients like fibre, vitamins, minerals and antioxidants. Fruit equals sugar without the slump.
The fourth piece of evidence against sugar is that it is loved by the food industry. Why is that? Because sugar makes them money. 1. Sugar excites the reward centres in the brain and causes us to crave more and more. 2. When sugar is combined with fat and salt, it becomes almost impossible to resist. 3. Food companies know our bliss points, the exact proportions of sugar, salt and fat to keep us hooked and coming back for more. Sugar, salt and fat are ingredients that are very cheap, they make us hungrier, and they override the body's fragile controls on overeating, making us gain weight. The recommendation is that from the age of 11 we consume no more than 30 grams of added sugar daily. However, this is how easy it is to consume too much sugar, and it doesn't all have to come from foods. You could have one of these so-called healthy drinks. This one contains 49.5 grams of sugar, and this one 44 grams of sugar. Plus you could have a cookie. These chopped chip cookies contain about 22 grams of sugar, and maybe a hot chocolate before bed. That can easily contain about 25 to 30 grams of sugar. So just these 3 items, if you have either one of these drinks, can give you about 100 grams of sugar. And if you consume this every day over a half term or 6 weeks, that's 4.2 kilograms of sugar, which is this amount every 6 weeks. This concludes the case against sugar.